guys, Stu here. Welcome to a new review, or as I would probably be more accurate calling it, 8 minutes of a guy stuck in his room sweating to death. I should probably upload this to Live Leak. Don't know what's happened in the UK, but it's that hot. It's that, in fact, I'm finding out what temperature it is that kills Stu Wilson. 33 degrees! It's hotter than the sun, Lynn. And if you got that reference, well, you're doing something right. Anyway, today we're talking about another one of those Marvel smashy superhero films that the US gets way earlier than the UK do. It's Ant-Man and the Wasp. Which, if you haven't joined the dots together on that one, is a sequel to Ant-Man, which is a Marvel flick that came out a little while back starring Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. And this one takes place after the events of Civil War, which is when we last saw Ant-Man, before the events of, well, whatever the fuck that Carnage Avengers 4 was. I mean, one of the big things people said after Infinity War was, hey, where the hell did that tiny dude go? I haven't seen him for a while. He could probably help. And then Marvel were like, don't worry, here's a film. And so we have one. Again, it's directed by Peyton Reed. It's a little bit more, hey, the Peyton Reed show. Unless, oh, this looks like Edgar Wright thought of it and someone else finished it. Which is kind of what happened with the first one. But that being said, I did actually quite enjoy the first Ant-Man. It was this weird, quirky, fun little Marvel film that sat in its own little bubble aside from the rest of the superheroes there. And I thought, whilst it didn't do everything amazingly, it did a good job. And so going into this one, I did have some expectations there, gotta say. And coming off the back of what I think is one of the best runs of Marvel films we've had for a while now, I was like, cool, let's see what you got for me then. And it's alright. It's alright. I gotta be honest, I wasn't too blown away by it, and I think I'd probably just go back and watch the first Ant-Man over this one, but it did some things well. Firstly, obviously Paul Rudd is back in the role as Scott Lang Ant-Man. I mean, he's the best thing about these Ant-Man films, and I think the casting of Paul Rudd in this role is just pure genius from Marvel. I pretty much love anything the guy does. So obviously I was happy to see him back in a role here. And whilst this isn't my favourite Paul Rudd performance, and not the best I think we've seen him as Ant-Man before, he does still deliver. But we've also got some of the returning cast from the first one coming back. We've got Michael Douglas, great as ever, but we've also got Kate from Lost, who is just, yes, I love that woman so much. And it is still a little bit difficult for me to separate Kate from Lost and Evangeline Lilly as an actress, but I'm getting there. But no, she's great as the Wasp. Her character obviously is now in the title of this one, so she's clearly got a prominent role in this one over the first one. And in many ways, this one does feel a little bit more like a Wasp film than an Ant-Man film. At least in the focus of the storyline or the threat that they're going up against in this one. So I like that. That was a refreshing change of pace there. I was interested to see how they do that. But this time we've got a couple of newcomers to the cast as well. Michelle Pfeiffer, for one, pops up. Gotta love a bit of the Fife. We'll move on from that. I'll blame that on the heat. But perhaps my favourite addition to the cast is Walton Goggins, who, he's great. The dude's great. And yeah, I would have liked to see a little bit more from him, a little bit better work from him in this film. I feel like his character isn't quite given enough to make it feel worthwhile, but it's still good to see him in there, and he's doing good with what he's got there. But we've also got a new antagonist for Ant-Man and the Wasp in this one, played by an actress who has a name that I definitely can remember, and I'm going to say that for you. No, I can't remember her name. I'm so sorry. But no, I thought she was alright. For me, I don't know whether it's the character or the way she's positioned in scenes and dialogue, but I just felt like there was something lacking from her performance. Peyton Reed's direction here is pretty solid. I do feel like he's got a little bit more reign and control in terms of his overall vision for the Ant-Man films here, but I don't necessarily know if that works overall. I mean, it's filled with all the weird kind of Ant-Manisms in there. You've got things going big, things going small, toy cars, all that jazz. And that's still fun to see. There's one moment where they throw a Pez dispenser and use it as a giant fuck off huge weapon to take down some cars. Moments like that are exciting and fun to see, but I do feel like the first one had a little bit of an edge on that. I'm not sure whether that's just because it was something new and fresh and we're like, wait, what is this? This is odd. And you know, when you do it a second time, you're like, kind of just doing the same shit, aren't you, really? But where I do think this film starts to drop the ball is the comedic aspect. Now, that's not to say it's not a funny film. I did laugh a few times here and there, but overall, I'm not sure what it is about this one. It, more often than not, fell flat on its face. Multiple scenes where a character would say something, and you're like, oh, let's just cut to the next, just cut. And they don't. It keeps going. And it wasn't funny to begin with. And I think the moments that I laughed the most at were just weird Paul Ruddisms. Like, there's a bit towards the beginning where he's saying goodbye to his daughter and he's leaning out the door down the banister and he's just sort of sliding down going, goodbye. Moments like that where it is genuinely just Paul Rudd being weird and odd and goofy that I enjoyed. It's the actual written comedy in the script that really didn't work as much for me. And actually thinking about it more after seeing it, I mean, it really, really dropped the ball a lot of times. And it's so almost there as well, which I think makes it a little bit more frustrating. And I think that lends itself to a greater problem overall with this film, and that's just the screenplay as a whole and the writing. I'm not sure what it is about it. It feels like it's missing something. Like it assumes it's getting more out of us, when in reality it's just kind of a little bit stale, a little bit flat. So as a result, things are happening and there's these fun moments throughout, definitely, and there's interestingly executed, imaginative, creative sequences. But I was never really hooked. I was never really truly invested in it. And I like the way that with the villain in this one, they tried to make it a little bit different, and her connection to the protagonist in the film is slightly interesting, slightly curveball there. And I like that she isn't just this kind of cookie cutter through and through evil villain that's just like, I am evil and pure hatred and I'm going to stop at nothing till I can destroy everything. She's actually got a cause which, whilst it does put her in opposition to our protagonist, isn't directly just like destroy everything. So there's some kind of ground where you can reach a compromise with her, but at the same time I feel like it doesn't really do enough with that, so it doesn't feel like the villain's reached its full potential here. So without spoiling anything, you get to the end of this film and I don't know, me personally, it just felt like, oh, okay, cool, so that's that done. And then you look back and you're like, well, that means that there's different threads which I just feel a little bit pointless. Take one of those as Walton Goggins' entire character does just feel like he pops up and doesn't do shit, really. Which is not what I should be saying with a Walton Goggins performance. No! Give me more of Walton, please. I did like the stuff in the quantum realm. That was cool. There's all sorts of crazy kind of micro whatever you want. I'm not going to pretend to know what they're called. I'm not scientific in the slightest. And that is actually another thing which kind of slightly grated on me. I mean, I'm not a scientific buff. I'm not going, hey, the science doesn't hold up here. But it does feel like a lot of people just saying science mumbo-jumbo terms. And, I mean, at one point, Paul Rudd's character does say, do you just add the word quantum on the front, you know, or you just sound like you're making things up. And just, you know, putting a meta moment in there doesn't just save you from the fact that your characters are pretty much just saying weird science mumbo-jumbo. It plays it for laughs a few times, but I feel like there's definitely more to be done there. And I guess that's really the main thing to take away from pretty much every aspect of this film. I feel like it's all just doing something to the bare minimum, but never really taking full advantage of its opportunities. I'm not going to stand here and say it's anything special or great. It's easily one of the weakest that we've had from Marvel for the last couple of years, which is a real shame. But at the same time, I by no means dislike the film. I did find myself laughing a couple of times. I was entertained throughout. But bonus note, I did enjoy the end credits of this one. So, I mean, it obviously won't ruin it here, but I was like, oh, okay, cool, they're doing that. It must be fun being Marvel, just teasing stuff to fans in this kind of post-Infinity War world. You can tell they're lapping that, they're savouring that shit up. You cheeky bastards. But what about you guys? Have you seen Ant-Man and the Wasp yet? As I said, it just came out today over here in the UK, but it's been out for some time over in the States. Whatever you thought about it, let me know in the comments below. Let me know where it compares to other recent Marvel films like Infinity War, Spider-Man, Ragnarok, all that stuff. How's it doing for you in the Phase 3 canon? I think it's Phase 3 we're at. Can't remember. I'd love to know. Please do let me know in the comments down there. But if you enjoyed this video and you want to see me talk about more shit, please do consider clicking subscribe if you haven't already. Really helps me out. Also means that you get to see the latest reviews from me when they go live. If YouTube does its job correctly, which it rarely does. What? Who said that? But no, please don't be afraid to slam on that subscribe button. Like, share, do all that jazz. Really helps me out. I'll see you guys shortly for another review where I may or may not have just turned into a liquid pot of molten skin, because this heat's doing no good for me. No good. But until next time, stay beautiful, mother truckers.